Hey, welcome. Welcome to our little series, the six-part series on mercy. As you know, or at least I hope you know, Pope Francis, this last December 8th, declared 2016 the year of mercy. And so what is mercy? Let me just read Merriam-Webster's definition. It defines mercy as a kind or forgiving treatment of someone who could be treated harshly, kindness or help given to people who are in very bad or desperate situations, which means we all need mercy. At some time or other in our life, we need mercy. I was just ordained a priest back in May of 1983. That's a long time ago. Listen, it went by quickly. And my first assignment, it was just a summer assignment though, I was sent to a small little parish in Birmingham, Alabama. And just outside our parish walls was these projects. It was a little challenging area, not the most wealthiest area as well. But one thing about the parish, Our Lady of Rosary, our pastor, our priests who were there, we were chaplains to Mother Angelica, EWTN. That's before she began her own order of priests. So we were the ones who took care of her, and I got to meet Mother Angelica. I don't know if that's anything special, but I sort of was honored by it. But anyway, when I was there that summer of 1983, just ordained in May and was there in June, I was excited, new priest, actually learning how to be a priest. It was a whole different change, but I have to admit I was homesick. I'm not sure if that's the right word to say homesick, but what I missed, I guess I missed the seminary. Even though it was sort of rigorous and sort of regulated, it wasn't so much the rules or regulations I missed, but I guess I missed my friends. There was something about, being your classmates, your friend down the hall, and eating together, hanging out together. All of a sudden, you went separate ways. And of course, I kept in touch with them through letter writing. You do know what letter writing is, don't you? Yes. That was before email and texting. We used to write letters, but also just phone calling. And again, back then in 83, we didn't have cell phones, and there was such a thing as called long-distance charges, and things could get expensive, quite expensive. For some reason or other, I didn't pay any mind to that. Either I didn't realize, or I actually probably didn't care. I just wanted to talk to my friends and on the phone longer than I should have been. Time can go without even realizing it, and so that's what happened. And as I mentioned, our parish, well, it was a struggling parish. Interesting little rectory, by the way. We had a small little rectory. We had this little cat called Sunset that was free to roam wherever she wanted, on the table, on the counters. Lining the hallways with boxes of Pampers for the people. So it was a small little sort of impoverished place. Like that, the big treat, going out to eat once a week. Wasn't to any restaurant or even a fast food restaurant. Father Pat had a discount at the hospital, so Sunday afternoon we all trooped down to the hospital and ate at that cafeteria. That was the big splurge in eating out. So you realized that money was sort of an issue. Despite that, I ran up the phone bill. And then Father Pat asked me to come into his office because he wanted to speak to me, and I realized, uh-oh, I'm going to get it. Here we go. Even though I'm ordained a priest, I still feel like a little child called into the office, something like this. And I remember this, sitting down and, okay, let me have it, ready for it, and realized I was the guilty party. And to my shock, to my surprise, he didn't raise his voice, he didn't reprimand me. He just asked me very kindly, I know you're young and excited and you miss your friends and you're doing a good job, but can you be careful with the phone bill? I sat there stunned. I'm thinking, that's it? You're not going to, let me have it? Not at all. He was most merciful. I experienced that as mercy, as a kindness, because I felt I was guilty as charged and probably deserved it. But he was understanding and merciful. But I shouldn't be surprised by his mercy because Father Pat, when I was there, he was either in the late 70s, maybe even early 80s. He was up in age. But he had a interesting childhood as we would sit at dinner table and talk. And one time he spoke about growing up, I think, in Englewood, New Jersey. He wasn't fairly well off, or at least comfortable anyway. But then all of a sudden death came. I believe he lost his father, and then his mother died, I believe. And he described the funeral, taking the boat over to New York. It might have been the funeral at St. Patrick's, I'm not sure, but the casket was in a horse-drawn carriage. remembers that somber time, and then he had to go live with some relatives in the Bronx in a little apartment, little flat. It was really pretty tight and pretty poor. I think he had to most sleep on the floor, I guess. I don't remember exactly all the details, but it was a big change from a house to a little apartment flat there in the Bronx. Anyway, he became a Salesian, and a Salesian, we had schools, and he was in charge of, I think, of a school, like a principal of discipline, and it was very difficult for him. What was difficult for him, and especially back then, we had boarding schools, and sometimes kids had to be asked to leave, that they couldn't stay. And it was his job, to call the student in, the child, let them know that they would have to leave. And that would crush him. He said he couldn't do it. But he'd do it after he dismissed somebody, he'd get in the car and simply drive and be alone. It just brought back memories of him, of his own childhood, not having a mom and dad and feeling their pain, and he couldn't handle it. He just had a very tender, sensitive heart. And I think that helped shape him being a man of mercy. Yeah, so mercy is that gift that we all desire, that we all need. And funny, I had to think back to 1983, and preparing these talks, I was asking myself, well, when else did you experience, mercy? When was the last recent time? And what came to mind was some years ago, now, probably 7 years ago, I guess. I was down in DeBarry driving home from the park with my dogs. It was a dog park, I forget the exact name of it. And I'm driving, and I'm heading back home, and I guess I raced a red light or a yellow light. Anyway, I raced through it, and next thing I know, I'm driving. I look in my rear view mirror, and there's this police car. He's after somebody, and I'm hoping, praying that it's not me. I look and glance, and I think, uh-oh, I think he wants me. And so I pull over to the side, and sure enough, unfortunately, he followed me, and I began getting that knots in my stomach, and I wasn't sure what I did, why he was pulling me over. Anyway, he came up to the car, and he told me, by the way, you ran the red light. Again, I thought light was still yellow, but I wasn't going to argue with him. He said, you ran that red light, and I think I have to give you a ticket. But at that point, he looks in the back seat, and there's Bosco, my late St. Bernard. I guess it caught his eye, whatever it was, but all of a sudden it sort of changed his whole tone. He said, whoa, what a dog you got there. I said, yeah, it's Bosco, my dog. Wow, he said. And then he just simply said to me, you got to be a little more careful and watch those lights, okay? And I said, sure, officer, I'll be more careful, and that was it. He walked away. Whew. I had a sigh of relief. I mean, who wants a ticket? Who wants the fine? Who wants it on your record? I was lucky, fortunate, because I had Bosco in the car, and I told Bosco, when you get home today, you're going to get an extra treat, because you saved the day. Is that what mercy depends on? On who we know, on who we're friends with, on who we connected with? Is that what it takes to receive mercy? Is it mercy for the some, for the privileged, those with the right connections, those in the know, but for others, whatever reason may be, because they're not in the right crowd, they don't have the right color, the right economic status, speak with an accent, or don't look like us? Are they deprived of our mercy? Do we pick and choose who receives it? No, mercy is for all. If anything, especially those who least deserve it sometimes and most need it. And do we give mercy to those who we think somehow behave accordingly? Do we want people to beg for us for mercy? Do we want to see people, put themselves on their knees and plead for us, and then we have this feeling of superiority? Is that what it takes to give mercy to somebody? To make sure they realize that they are the inferior and we are the superior? That we know how to do that act when I was a kid and get in trouble. My dad was a little bit tougher, but my mom, I knew how to operate with her. So my dad would give me punish me, be grounded for some time, and I knew how to come out of my room with a long face, downcast, looking forlorn. My mother would see me and realize how miserable I looked. And she asked me if I was sorry, and I said, sure, Mom, I'm sorry, and I promise I won't do it again. And sure enough, it worked. She would set me free. And sometimes I think that's what we want from people. We want them to look miserable and sort of to plead for us, and that we know that they did wrong, and that we make sure they realize that. But mercy also offered to others, and so they also keep their own dignity. Because none of us are superior. We're all weak and we're all fallen. You know, mercy, though, is also kind of funny. It's strange in its own way. When we do something wrong, of course we want mercy. We don't want justice for ourselves. And not only that, when we make mistakes, when we mess up, when we goof up, it's not because of ourselves. It's always because of the circumstances. You know, it was the weather, the traffic. It was my teacher's fault, my parents. It was always something other than ourselves. But when someone else messes up, when someone else does it wrong, it's not because of circumstances. It's because of their character. They're lazy, not dependable. That's right. Untrustworthy. We attribute mercy to ourselves, but to others, we come down harsh. It's something about the human psyche. And so what I'm suggesting, what God suggested to us, and the Pope reminds us that to be merciful, as we are gracious to ourselves, to be that same graciousness to offer that to others as well. Not to blame their character, but they too have their own struggles, to be kind and gracious. So anyway, we're going to start off this study with the Year of Mercy, and I just hope that we all grow, to grow together. And not only that we receive mercy from God, how often we do that, oh God, we want mercy for ourselves, but no, most importantly, that we are willing now to offer mercy. So during these next 6 weeks, think about it. Are you anybody that you are holding back forgiveness? Are you holding on to resentment, hostility? And it may have a strong hold on you, but little by little you got to pry it loose and open up that and let it go. So now spend some time with your group. And again, I thank you for taking the time out, because of many other things you could be doing with your time. I do appreciate it. I hope it's a time of God blessing. I hope it's a sharing and being a little, a gathering, strength between your little group, and grow in God's grace, and especially in His mercy. God bless, and God willing, we'll see you next week.